Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast. Our primary objective is to motivate and inspire our listeners to never quit. The reality of life is simple. We all fall. We all fail. At times, we get knocked down. The question is, do we get back up? Are we stronger? Are we better prepared to attain the maximum of our potential? Thank you for joining our No Quit tribe. As you go for your greatness today, never quit. And remember, we rise by lifting others up. Welcome to episode number 593 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme is Win Your Next Hour. Our quote of the day comes to us from Chris Ward. If you can win the hour, you can win the day. Before we jump into today's episode, I would like to encourage our listeners to head on over to positivitytribemerch.com. You can grab one of our bands or an encouraging t-shirt or sweatshirt. We truly appreciate you listening to our podcast. We'd really appreciate your support. Thank you. A couple weeks ago, I was on Amazon looking for my next book, and I came across the title, Win Your Next Hour. I grabbed a copy, and I'm glad that I did. As a result, our guest, Danny Lehr, is joining us, and I think you're going to get a lot from what he has to share with us. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Danny, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
Yeah, thanks, man. Excited to be here, Chris.
Appreciate you taking the time. We were talking offline, and I think my listeners know this, but the algorithms in social media and algorithms on websites like Amazon and those things are phenomenal when you actually utilize them and you are liking and sharing and commenting. So I'm holding it up, and the people that are listening to this can't see it, but your new book, Win Your Next Hour, we will touch on that. But before we do that, first question I ask each guest is, are you ready to positively impact at least one person today?
Oh, yeah, man. That's the goal every day.
And if you do that, and if I do that, and a bunch of our listeners do that, I think we would all be in a much better place. So I used to always look at that as only one, but it's you doing one, me doing one, a listener. So I think it compounds and leads me to the next question, which I don't fully know per se, so I'm curious to get your answer. But the whole reason behind our show is to inspire people to never give up. And I was curious if you have either a personal or professional no-quit story that you could share with our listeners.
Man, my life is made up of no-quit stories. I'm going to give you one actually from yesterday, is with my daughter. I have a 12-year-old daughter and I have an 8-year-old, both girls. And we're swimming at a friend's house. Our neighbors are out of town and said, hey, can you come over, water the flowers while we're gone and use the pool? I said, sure, sounds good. So every night after dinner, go over there, swim for a little bit, and water the flowers. Well, they have a waterfall, but it's not like rocks. It's just basically the side of the pool just goes up like 2 feet. And then there's one section where just the side of the pool wall goes up. Like, I'm not kidding you. It's like 3 feet out of the water. And if you turn it on, that's where the waterfall kind of comes out of, right? So you'll see where I'm going in a minute. So kids are having a good time. They're jumping off that higher part in the pool, whatever. And then they go and they grab the smaller part and they're trying to pull themselves out of the water, but not just on the edge, on this edge that's like 2 feet higher than the water. So it's kind of tough, you know what I mean? Because one, you're wet. And so they got long hair and they go, the swimsuits and everything. And eventually they get out. Well, then they're trying to get out of the higher one. And again, this thing's 3 feet out of water. Basically, they have to do like a muscle up or like in climbing, it'd be called a mantle, to get on top of this thing. And they couldn't do it. And my oldest daughter, my 12-year-old, she's trying and trying and trying, and she can't get it. And I'm just waiting for her to give up on it because honestly, it was like she just quit playing and quit swimming. And she was over there, just banging her head against this thing. And I'm just watching her, and I was blown away at how many. And I'm not kidding you. It must have been her 50th attempt. She gets it. She gets one elbow, her elbow over her wrist. She starts pushing and I see it. I'm like, and she's like, hey, she wants some encouragement. So I see her. I'm like, oh, Maddie, go, you got it. And she got up there and she was juiced. She was so pumped. And I actually looked at my other neighbor who was with us, who's actually my business partner in the gym. I own a gym. He's my business partner in the gym, and he's my next door neighbor. Kind of funny. Anyway, so he was there, and I was like, dude, I cannot believe. Did you see how many times she tried that? And he was like, yeah, dude, blown away. She just kept trying. And it's a small thing, and it's so inconsequential to life. But she was because at one point I'm like, man, we got to go in 5 minutes. and just telling everyone, hey, 5-minute warning. When you got kids, you say 5-minute warning and then you just leave whenever you want because they're not wearing watches. Anyway,
or it's 5 minutes and it's 4 hours later because they trick you.
Yeah, exactly. 5-minute warning. She's like, well, hold on. I'm like, you better hurry up, dude. You got a couple more shots at us. We got to go. Anyway, she was so pumped. And again, it's the little thing, but I just totally saw that in her is that no quit attitude, it would have been easy to try a few times. Now part, I'll try next time or whatever. But no, man, there was nothing else in that backyard she had any interest in than trying to get up on that wall. And then later, of course, the bottom of her feet are all scraped up, from smearing on the wall and stuff. And she got Band-Aids on her toes, but not complaining about it. She just said oh man, look, this is great. Anyway, so there's one from yesterday that just happened. And so it doesn't even have to be us. It doesn't even have to be something big. It could just be a 12-year-old trying to climb up on this wall out of a swimming pool,
To me, that question is, in some ways, it's loaded because I know the guests and I've read their books, or a lot of times I become friends with them or just follow their stuff on social media. Obviously, I did not know that you were going there, but I do have to just say that it's so interesting when you look at life and you can always see the glass as half full or half empty. And that I don't want to just simplify that what some people are going through, just, you'll get through it. Everything's fine. Obviously, there are ebbs and flows where you're going through something that's horrific, something that's small, or something that's not a big deal. But the focus of kids and being a dad myself, and this is, there's that analogy, and I'm going to share it, and I know you're going to smile and nod, but it's when you read books about parenting and stuff, there's that idea of being encouraging, and it's your kid falls down the first time he or she tries to walk, and you don't push them down all right, you're a failure, you're never going to do it. For some kids, it's 1, 2, 3 tries. For some, it's 50, 100, 200. But it's that shift when I think it's 15, 16, 17 years old where I don't want to say we discourage, but we don't encourage as much as we did when they were younger. And I'm always curious as to why, because those are the times when kids can really need the extra push for school, for life, whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as far as maybe what you thought you were going to get out of me or something is, I've done some different things. One of which I have a friend in Alaska. And one time we went bushwhacking up the side of this mountain. And and this dude lives there. This is what he does, and it's different levels of fitness. I'm in pretty good shape. And this guy was just smoking my ass, walking up this. There's times where we had to climb, grab tree roots and physically climb up the sides. And it's raining. It was terrible. But it really stems from, funny thing is, when I was a kid. So as I've been doing podcast interviews over the past 10 years or so, something that someone asked me one time early on is they said, hey, do you have something from your childhood or something from your parents that, shaped, your current life or your attitude towards going after things, or kind of no quit attitude? And I never really thought of that before. And I got reminded that, as I was thinking about it, I remembered that my dad took us backpacking and we were young. I'm talking, we had little kid backpacks on. I mean, they're external frame backpacking backpacks, but they're made for kids. And I think, I'm not kidding, man. I think I was 7 years old, somewhere between 5 and 7. My brother's 3 years older. And he would go and we'd knock off, over the course of 5 days, we'd do 25 to 30 miles of the John Muir Trail up in Yosemite. And I mean, it was, not a huge, not this crazy pace. We were doing whatever, 5 to 7 miles a day type thing. But I mean, I'm thinking now, looking at my kids at 8 and 12 and being dude, taking these two hooligans out on the trail for, a week. I thought, man, my dad must really love us. And then I realized that I think that he just really wanted to go. And the only way he could talk my mom into going is if he took us with him. And so we were potentially, we were the consequences of his actions. I mean, I'm not sure. He was a great dad. We got along great. But anyway, I remember being young and we had to carry all our own stuff, including our own, breakfast and lunches and all of our own stuff. And I remember going up these switchbacks, man. And I remember thinking I'm done, dude. I'm so tired, whiny little, chubby 7-year-old kid, whatever. But there's the catch is you actually don't have a choice. You have to get over the summit and get to the next, like, wide spot on the side of the trail, right? Like, you cannot just camp here tonight. Like, I can't just lay my sleeping bag in the middle of the trail on these switchbacks that are going up over this peak. Like, it's just not an option. And so I think early on it was ingrained in me to you just have to keep going, just keep going, keep going. If you need to rest, but like, you just can't stop, right? And I think back that a lot, and I think I'm sure it's not the first time where I had to push through something, but I like remember like very vividly, like, whining and complaining going up these switchbacks as a little kid, but just like not having the option of stopping. And I think that really is what did lead me to, having these experiences later in life, whether it's, my freshman year in high school, starting going out to wrestling for the first time and being the hardest thing I'd ever done, and just getting my kicked every single day, but keep showing up, to, competing in Olympic style weightlifting, which is just a brutal sport to train for. It's like 9 sessions a week. We trained in the Bulgarian methods. We maxed out just about every single session for 9 sessions a week, doing that for years on end. And so just all these different activities, I've kind of found the things that I excel at the most are the things that require the most amount of physical discomfort and just dealing with it and doing it anyway. And at the same time, have a highly technical aspect to it. Right. So that really kind of lends to being uncomfortable and just dealing with it, and being able to perform highly technical things and make the highly technical adjustments while under duress. Right. And that obviously translates to business and life and all kinds of other things.
I think that's a great question, going back to when you prefaced that last answer about how you've been on many podcasts over the last 10 years and somebody asked you about a moment in your childhood. And I think when you look back at different things, I think different things obviously help shape what we do. And not to turn this around onto me for a second, but my family went on vacation. I have a younger brother, and we were in Switzerland, and I think he was 7 or 8 at the time. We went on with another family and another family of theirs, and we were climbing down this huge mountain. We took a gondola up, and my younger brother was kind of running with another younger kid, and the parents were like, be careful, be careful, be careful. And of course, my brother fell. He hit his head on a rock, cut open, and my dad just literally picked up my brother, and we were about 2 or 3 miles to go back up to wait for the gondola to go down. And the guide there, he said, if he can walk, you can make it down quicker if you just go down. And my dad just picked my brother up, and me and one of the other kids, just went down. And it was like maybe 2.5 miles. And when I say he didn't stop once, my dad, he didn't stop once. And I was, 13, 14. And I was in really good shape. I played a bunch of sports, and I was stopping 5, 6, 7 times. And, he would stop with us, holding my brother and be like, you guys are okay, get a break and then go. And he didn't stop. And my point, a little bit long-winded, it goes back to, some of the stuff that you wrote in your book, but you started the book with kind of what you said is going through those tough things. And for me, being a former athlete myself, that's what I think intrigues me about those people that I don't want to say enjoy it per se, because there's the idea that and I'm just speaking for myself, I enjoy the after fact more than the actual grind of it. But the satisfaction of knowing, and it doesn't have to be working out, lifting, it could be different things. It could be a project, it could be doing something for work. But I think there's so much satisfaction in going through hard things, and it's the idea of the journey. It's not the end result, it's not the goal. And that sounds all fine and good, but the reality is when you get to the end result, it feels so much better knowing that you just grinded through something really difficult.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's funny, just recently, just a few months ago, I did this bike ride around Lake Tahoe. And so it's great. It's called America's Most Beautiful Bike Ride. It's a fundraiser for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And it's 73 miles around Lake Tahoe. And it's at, Lake Tahoe's at 6,200, feet, right? So it's at elevation, 73 miles. I'm not a cyclist. You know what I mean? It's dude, my most recent like athletic endeavors, a success was an Olympic weightlifting. A snatch takes like half a second, you know what I mean? And then I'm gonna go on this bike for 5 hours. But I had a friend that's done it a few times and he, he's like, you could do it, whatever. I'm like, all right. And like I said, I'm in pretty good shape, whatever. I've been doing CrossFit for like 18 years and that type of thing. So I was like, all right, well, let's go. So I got an old bike, fixed it up, and then started doing these training rides for it. And, it's funny, like on these training rides, there's lots of times where sometimes we would go, 50 miles, 55 miles, these training rides, and there's stretches where we just go up for a couple miles in a row. And it's like, yeah, dude, like you want to stop for sure. Like, yeah, my legs hurt. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of tired of doing this for now. If I could like not do this, that'd be great, but like you don't really have a choice. It's like, okay, well, if I was by myself, maybe I guess I would a little more, but I'm with this group that's training for this ride. And it's like, well, I can't, I'm not just going to stop and go back down. They would let me, it's not like whatever, but like, I'm not doing that. And then the same thing, it's like on the actual ride, going around Tahoe, there's this one climb going up and it is miles. It is miles in a row where it's just up the entire time. And you look and there's a little turn and like, okay, I'm sure right past that turn, it'll level out a little bit. And you go past that turn, it gets steeper. And you're like, gosh. And then at one point there's a sign. It's like next rest, because they have like some rest areas along the way. Next rest area, 2 miles. And I'm thinking like, at this point, like we're done, knackered, like just like tired, right? And I'm like, well, 2 miles. This is like 7% gradient. I'm going like 6 miles an hour. Like, dude, I'm gonna be doing this for another 45 minutes. Is what you're. It's like before I get to stop. Like I'm just on the hook for another 45 minutes of grinding up this hill type thing. And it was fine. And I made it and it was great. But exactly what you're saying, I may not have enjoyed that precise moment, but like, yeah, it felt good to get to the top. It felt good when the whole race was over, knowing that I did it, that I completed the, 73 mile ride around Tahoe as my first, actual kind of ride. And all that, And one more thing on this topic is that's actually where Win Your Next Hour, where the title comes from is, we keep talking about sports, but that's all right. You're a sports guy. Is my freshman year of high school, I was playing soccer and I played soccer my whole life growing up, right? I'm talking from like walking until, whenever. So I get into high school and first day conditioning, and this is like another animal, right? It goes from just playing like mostly rec league. Like my brother played high comp and club, and I never did. I just played rec league stuff. So we get there and it's like day one, we're running like 3 miles to start practice. And it's like, I am miserable and I want to quit so bad. And so I just started lying to myself. I was like, well, it's okay. Just finish today. If you just finish today, you don't have to come back tomorrow. This is it, Danny. Hey, you know what? Just deal with it, because the good news is this is the last time you ever have to do this. This is it. We're done after this. Just today. And then, of course, the next day I'd find myself, getting out of the car at practice or after school, walking out to the field, and all right. And then the same thing. All right, start off, whatever, 10 laps around this field, which is like 3 miles. And same thing. I'm like in the middle of this run and I'm like, what am I doing? This is miserable. I'm not enjoying this. Terrible. It's okay. Just finish today and you can quit. You don't have to come. Just finish today and you can come back tomorrow. And like, that's what I discovered at that moment. I was like, oh man, I just have to get through that moment, maybe give yourself an out. It's just not an out you can take right now. Right. And so that was something that kind of got me like, all right, just win this hour, just make it through this hour. Then you can quit, you can slow down, you can stop. You don't have to do this again. And that turned into something that I've used a lot of times now.
I love the story, and it resonated with me because I'm a big fan of Jocko Willink, and Jocko always talks about, just don't quit today. You don't have to commit for the next year, 2 years, but just don't quit today. And that, I remember my first big speaking event that I did in New York City. That week leading up to it, I had memorized everything, and it was like 4 days before, as giving different speeches and things. You're like going through everything. I have it memorized, and this video from Jocko resonated with me, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to add this into And like I told my team, and they're like, "What are you second? What are you doing?" And I'm like, this fits so well. But I say that because your book and the concept of it, and I want to be very clear that it's not a simple book, and I'm not in any way saying that Danny, took 5 minutes and wrote a book, but the simplicity of what it means for fill in the blank, sports, business, parenting, unfortunately a health issue, a death in the family, fill in the blank. And we've all gone through some really bad things, but a quote and a saying and a post that I've put out probably once or twice a year for the last 5 or 6 years is the idea that, we've all made it through 100% of our worst days. We've made it through 100% of them. Now, that doesn't mean going back to your bike ride, they were easy, they were simple. And as you're going through just the absolute worst of the worst, but going back to your bike ride, when you did the math, reverse engineer in your brain saying, okay, I'm going 6 miles an hour. It's 2 miles uphill. Like, all right, I got to do this for another 40, 45 minutes. Did you die? No, of course not. Was it fun? Absolutely not. But you got to that point. So interesting question for you, for somebody that's listening right now, and either in their personal or professional life, maybe they're just in their mind or reality, just in that absolute, just the lowest point. How do you preface that, win your next hour with them? Because I'm sure you've been asked that many times.
That's really hard when people are at their lowest point, right? And I think that a lot of times people just need, let me back up. It's really hard to say at their lowest point, because I think when people are at their lowest point, it's hard for them to reason and listen to anybody, right? And I think at that time, it really is just like, hey, like, let's just, again, it's like, just get through today, sleep, let's get one more night of sleep, right? And you can talk about things. But, in the book, Win Your Next Hour, one thing I teach in there is the W.I.N method, right? W.I.N, it's an acronym. And when I discuss it in the book, I discuss it in terms of accomplishing a goal. There's something you want to do, and a lot of people don't know where to start, right? And so, or they don't know, like, how do I get these steps? Or I just can't, whatever. And by just following that simple acronym, the system that I lay out, you can accomplish anything you want. You can do whatever you want to do just by following this little system, right? And although I really wrote it in regards to accomplishing things, it's also true as far as just getting out of a hole, right? So, for example, and again, this isn't a system I just made up out of thin air. This is what happened is I basically spent a decade spending time, and I don't mean spending time like 2 minutes. I mean like living in a house for 2 weeks or the type of thing with ultra high achievers. We're talking Olympic gold medalists and their coaches. We're talking about, a guy who sold his company for $1.6 billion. Guys that started from absolutely nothing, and now their company does $200 million a year. Just these ultra high achievers in different realms. And I realized they all kind of say the same things and do the same things and think the same way. And so I just was able to consolidate that all down into this simple method, which people have followed to do smaller things, even that are still great accomplishments, like a barista who opened a coffee trailer. And then that's her job now, right? It went from just like a fun idea to a career, right? So all that's to say, that same system for achievement can also be used to get out of that hole. And so the first one is W, and W means words. Like, you just have to tell people what's going on, right? So in the sense of accomplishment, you need to tell people what you're up to. Like, what do you want to do, right? And by doing that, it does 3 things. One is it bolsters your self-belief, meaning every time you say it, you start to believe it more and more. And the more you say it, the more you believe it. And, when it comes to doing really hard things, a lot of times we don't even want to tell people because we don't want to say it out loud. I asked my friend Wes Kitts, who's a 2-time Olympian. I was like, Wes, do you remember the first time you told someone your goal was to win the Olympics? Like, that must have been terrifying, right? And he's like, yeah, man. Actually, when he was training to snatch the American record, he was like, I don't want to tell anybody because I thought they wouldn't believe me. They'll laugh at me. And then he said he realized if he can't even get himself to say it out loud, how can he really believe it? And if he doesn't really believe it, is he going to put in the time and the effort and the training it takes to accomplish it? Absolutely not. So if you're holding this goal inside and you're not telling anybody that they're going to do it, you're not going to believe you can do it yourself. And you know what? when you do miss that lift, or when you are tired that day, you might stop a little bit early. You might convince yourself that you just don't have it today and you're going to try again tomorrow, or whatever. And like, I don't know that you're really going to put in the time and the effort and the energy it takes if you don't truly believe it's possible. And so you got to tell people what you're up to bolster your self-belief. It also adds a layer of accountability. People are going to ask you about it, right? And the third thing is that people want to help. You'd be amazed how many people want to help you if they just knew what you're up to. And that's just the W in the W.I.N system, right? But all those things can be applied directly to someone who's in a deep hole in their darkest spot, right? And looking for a way out, doesn't know how to get out. You got to use your words and tell people what's going on. If you're in your deepest, darkest spot and you don't know what the way out is, you got to tell people what's going on. Because one, you need to understand how bad it actually is. Like, you might feel like trash, but a lot of times when you're in that deep, dark zone, it's just, you've probably been there for a while, right? Or you've been struggling for a really long time. And the truth is, you probably are in denial about how bad it really is, and, or you might have the thoughts in your head, but you're not saying it out loud. When you tell someone out loud how much you're struggling, then you'll actually understand how bad you're actually struggling. And that'll help you have the epiphany to actually like do something about it. Once you actually realize how much you're struggling, then that's going to motivate you to do something different or realize that you need to change. Same thing. You're going to get accountability by that person. And also, if they can't help you, they probably know someone that can. And so step one to accomplishing any goal is the same as step one to getting out of a deep, dark hole in a bad place, which is telling people what's going on in your life, man.
I think something that I was thinking about as well as you were talking in the beginning of that answer was that I think also sometimes we don't know when we're in our lowest point. So sometimes it's hard to, obviously there are times when, things can't really get worse per se. But what you said, I want to backtrack for a second, because I think going back to my comment about the simplicity of what you wrote, and again, I have to preface it because in no way is it a knock on you.
Oh, simple is good. Simple is good.
Simple is good, but what I realized about what I've been focused on over the last couple of years, personally, professionally, as I'm trying to do a lot of projects and things, is that I used to have that view of just like, all over the place, like this. And yes, you have to initially think big, but then you have to downsize your goal into bite-sized steps. And I love how you preface that you need to have a simple system for whatever it is. It could be something like losing weight. It could be something like writing a book. It could be something as going back to school. Whatever those things are, the more simple you can start. And so many of my guests over the last year or two have really said a very similar message. Now, I want to be clear that it's not in any way, do they all say the same thing? But like you were sharing your story about those people you're surrounding yourself with, there are so many common themes that are very similar. Whether you're a billionaire, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're, an employee, whether you're a phenomenal mother, father, it's the foundation of like, this is why I did it. This is how I did it. Got to ask you, as being an author myself, when is book number 2 coming out?
Oh, dude, I don't know. Let's the funny thing is I never thought I would write a book. I never, not that I don't know if that's the right way to say it. It was never the goal. It was never the plan, but you just kind of get presented with things, opportunities. And I think it's important to take opportunities and do different things. And basically I decided at one point a couple of years ago that I just wanted to be better at writing. If I was better at writing, then I'd be better at business. I'd be better at speaking. It'd be a good skill to have. I always did pretty well in school, but like I never really enjoyed writing, whatever. And so at Caffeine and Kilos, my company, it's in the fitness space. We sell coffee and apparel. And so anyway, we had a person that was doing customer service for us, and she was really kind of between jobs. She was way overqualified. She was just a friend of ours and loved the company and was like, yeah, dude, I'll do your customer service for a couple months while I figure out the next thing, Well, she had ghostwritten a couple books, and both of her parents are English professors. And so I said, okay, well, sounds good. And then what we started doing is I started writing a weekly email, and then I would write it, and then I would send it to her and she would grade my paper. And she would go through and just like pick it apart, And it started off with, some help with, some punctuation and grammar and these types of things, right? Which is I expected. And then after 10 or 12 weeks, and also I have a friend who's an English teacher that's written a few books. So maybe once every 2 months, and he got the emails and he'd be pretty good about not saying too much. But then once every month or two, I'd send him a rough draft also and have him grade my paper, right? And anyway, after a couple months, the corrections stopped being grammar and punctuation. It started being, word choice and positioning and thematic and these types of things, right? And so for about a year, I wrote a blog and an essay essentially every single day or every single week, and got it graded by English teachers and authors. And during that process, I started really enjoying it. Like I was like, man, I actually really like this. I like doing this. I'm having a good time with this. I was getting a lot of really good feedback from my email list, and it was a lot of fun. And then COVID, that whole situation went down. And again, I have Caffeine and Kilos. I also own a gym. And so my entire focus and, bandwidth changed during that time. So I kind of quit writing that, had to focus on those things. And then I just realized that, man, I really missed writing. I really missed that whole process. And I realized through my experiences, again, these different things I learned and picked up, I thought, and I'd done a few speaking gigs and I really enjoyed that. And so I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to do more of this speaking, which is I really enjoy, that's actually something I'm pursuing now. So if anyone has an event you need a speaker for, let me know. So that was kind of part of that process. Okay, well, if I'm going to do more speaking, then I want to make sure I want to distill down the things I actually want to say. And then that's what got me into writing the book. It was an opportunity for me to simplify, right? For me to simplify and condense the lessons I learned over the years from other people and from my own experiences winning the Masters World Cup in weightlifting and growing businesses and that type of thing. So that's all. That's a long answer, like all mine have been. Essentially, to say that this first book I wrote, I had no plans on writing, and I enjoyed it very much. But it was very much as well something to scratch my own itch and a way to get this stuff that I've learned out to the world. I realize I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm personally friends with, and I don't mean friends like, hey, what's up? I mean like, I've slept on their couch and we used to spend a lot of time, type thing with about 3 or 4 Olympians, including a gold medalist, and just like that type of thing. I'm just realizing like, I don't know if my parents have ever like met an Olympian, shaken hands with an Olympic gold medalist, let alone spent weeks around them and, see these different things. And I just kind of realized that, man, I do have these unique experiences and things. And I think it'd be a shame not to share those. Right. And so that was what really led me to that first book. And so as of now, no plans in the second book. It's more of just work on getting this book out in as many hands as possible, get on as many stages as possible, and try and spread this message. Maybe I'll be like James Clear and I'll just write one book and speak about it for the next 10 years.
If you could do that, that'd be awesome. And not that it's an easy thing that he's done, but I just used 2 of his quotes this week alone on social media.
Yeah, I spoke to James in writing the book. It was great. I got some lots of primary source from him there. We talked for about an hour, and it was cool to get some things from him that aren't in his books and that type of stuff. Right, just kind of get a little stream of conscious in the conversation. It was a lot of fun.
And in your book, you write about your people, and you write one of my favorite quotes, which is from Jim Rohn: "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." If I could grant you dinner tonight with any 5 people, dead or alive, that you could level up with and learn from, who'd you pick for your 5?
Oh man, dead or alive? That makes it real hard. I don't know, man. I feel like oh man, there's so many. Whatever. I'm just going to talk because you get canceled for anything. First thing I was going to say is like, man, like I feel like George Washington could probably teach you some stuff. Like he obviously did a lot. I mean, world changing type things that have continued to be world type changing things. Hundreds of years later, centuries later. I think George Washington's interesting. On that, while I'm on U.S. presidents, man, I love Teddy Roosevelt. Teddy Roosevelt is such a character. Not just from his, that era, by the way, I'm relatively I was like obsessed with, like turn of the century. Between that and then like basically gold rush until like early 1900s, it just fascinates me for so many reasons. Yeah, so George Washington, Teddy Roosevelt. I mean, Jesus. I'd love to sit down with Jesus. Definitely teach us stuff. I want to do someone more modern day. I don't know, man. We'll just stop there. I mean, I could go. It's funny. Every one of those I said, my brain started reeling off other people in that category, right? You start talking presidents, and I'm like, well, as far as that goes, like there's a bunch of other presidents I'd like to talk to. And then same thing after I said Jesus, I was like, probably pretty interested to talk to Gandhi, right? Like I could, like you can kind of go through different spiritual leaders over time. And I bet, I'm a Christian myself, but I bet you could learn something from every, person that's been influential and those different things, right?
All right, I'm going to put a spin on it. Give me two more presidents to add to your list.
Oh, two more presidents? Well, I'll tell you what, man, want to talk about getting hate, but I'd love to have dinner with Donald Trump. I mean, that guy, just talk about someone who just has a vision and is doing what he wants and is, I think he's a very fascinating guy. I'm not saying that I think that he's the best person in the world, but as far as someone who knows how to get things done, I think he definitely knows how to get things done.
Well, he's also the self-proclaimed greatest president ever, so that would be a fun conversation from. So, all right, who's your last president then?
And then a last president. I think FDR would be super interesting. I think you FDR and through that you could probably get Churchill on the line. And
phone a friend.
Yeah, phone a friend who's not a U.S. president, but again, like. That dude ended his life like selling paintings. You know what I mean? Like what an interesting character there, right? Same thing. You get Teddy Roosevelt in there. You could probably get John Muir on the phone, right? Someone who wasn't a president, but super. Mark Twain, probably get Mark Twain in the mix somewhere. Again, not a president, but I bet you got some connections somewhere along the line.
He's actually Mark Twain's he's a cousin of mine. I could get him on the phone too. So I went to Washington College in Maryland, and I was a tour guide because I wanted some money, and I have to be full and fair disclosure. I knew about 20% of what I was supposed to know, and I think I made up like probably 25 different facts, and I was talking about George Washington doing this and doing that, and I wish I could go back because some of the stuff I said was just absolutely asinine.
Also, Abraham Lincoln. If you read like biographies on Abraham Lincoln, he was fascinating. Anyway,
talk about a no quit story. That guy just kept going. So social media, we briefly touched on algorithms and things in the beginning, but wanted to ask you if there are one or two people that you follow that put out really encouraging, uplifting stuff that maybe you'd like to reintroduce or potentially introduce to our listeners.
This guy Noah Kagan. Noah Kagan has a book called $1 Million Weekend, which sounds like a kitschy, instant do something book. It's really not. It's basically his argument is that just in the course of one weekend, you can start a business that can grow to be $1 million business. And it's about just iterating on things and quitting when it's not working, moving on to the next thing, I should say, right? And it's very much actually is great, inspirational during my book in lots of ways, because it's very action oriented. It's like you read a chapter and it's like, stop reading, put this down, go do this thing and come back. And that inspired me. That's why at the end of every chapter, I have a call to action, something to do. And so his social media presence is kind of hot and cold, but a lot of times when he does post things, they're from that book. And he's been a big influence and really helpful for me. Additionally to him, I really like Bedros Keuilian. Bedros Keuilian is the founder of Fit Body Bootcamp. This dude came to America when he was like 5 years old, didn't speak a single word of English. Parents were dirt poor, from Armenia, from communist Armenia. Guy had lice. They had to put gasoline in his hair to kill the lice because they couldn't afford the shampoo and stuff. Anyway, now his portfolio of businesses do $200 million a year in annual revenue, right? So he posts some stuff that's interesting. And again, someone who's been there, done it, and is helping other people do it as well. So there's a couple for you.
That's awesome. And for our listeners that want to find out more about you, connect with you, and also where would you prefer that they get a copy of your book? What's the best way for them to do all those things?
Yeah. So if you just go to winyournexthour.com, that has links to the book everywhere. It's available on Amazon, Audible, barnesandnoble.com, kind of any thrift books, wherever you buy books, you can find it. So if you go to winyournexthour.com, all the links are through there. And then get a hold of me personally on Instagram is probably the best way. And that's just at Danny_Lehr. And that's Lehr. So I spell Lehr. So Danny_Lehr.
And shameless plug for your book, because I just recently read it, but I really, really enjoyed it. So for our listeners, I definitely would recommend that not only do you follow Danny, but grab a copy of his book, which leads me to the last question we have for you and each of our guests is if you have some parting words you'd like to leave with our listeners today.
As being part of in the gym business, every day I interact with people who want to make a change in their life, but don't think they can do it. And the truth is that maybe you can't do anything in the world, right? But I think that most people highly underestimate what they can do. They think that they failed before and it's impossible, or they think that other people can do it and they can't for whatever reason. The truth is that most of the things that you want to do in life, whether that's lose 40 pounds, let's hike the Appalachian Trail, if it's start a little side business, all of these things are actually a lot easier than you think. And almost all of them can be accomplished just by following simple steps, right? So if you have something you want to do, you can do it. Don't think that you can't do it. Maybe you've tried before and failed. That doesn't mean you can't do it. So I just want more people to actually try for things. Don't just live complacent. If you're not happy, change something.
I think that is a fantastic way to end today's episode. For our listeners, please grab a copy of Danny's book. Follow him on social media. I love what you said at the end. It's something that I truly believe in. I'll leave with one of my favorite quotes of all time by Zig Ziglar is failure is an event, not a person. And I think too many of us look at the idea that we failed at something, so we are a quote unquote failure, or I failed in business, so I'm a failure, as opposed to I failed in this specific business, or I failed in this moment, but I'm going to take what I learned and grow and continue. So with that being said, Danny, I appreciate you being here. I know that we will connect again soon, and appreciate you taking the time that you did today.
Yep. Thank you. I had a great time, Chris.
Thank you for listening to episode number 593. Early on in the episode, Danny said one thing that I wanted to repeat. Just finish today. You don't need to worry about or focus on finishing next week, next month, or even a year from now. Just focus on today. As we wrap up today's episode, that is my personal challenge to each of you. Just finish today. It could be a project, a deadline, a sales call, or completing your current workout. Just finish. I hope you go out and crush your day, and remember, believe, and act upon our motto. We rise by lifting others up. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.